A young boy went missing during a family hike in the woods, vanishing from the trail while his parents were distracted for just a moment. The entire community joined the desperate search as darkness fell and temperatures dropped dangerously low. But 8 hours later, a trained sniffer dog leads rescuers to a large tree deep in the forest, and what they discover there makes everyone's blood run cold. Subscribe to the channel, leave your like and comment from which part of the world you're watching, because now I'm going to tell you how all of this happened. Jake, are you buckled up? Karen's voice cut through the soft buzz in the car. Her eyes looked in the mirror, searching for his bright yellow jacket. Yes, Mom, I did it, Jake answered, his voice quiet but excited. He pulled the seatbelt tighter, tapping his foot against his backpack. I hope you packed your notebook, Zoe said, rolling her eyes, but her mouth showed a small smile. Jake gave a nod. I want to draw a map of the trail. Maybe we will find something new today. Tom, hands steady on the steering wheel, smiled at everyone. He drove slowly as they passed the last houses in Smithville. This is perfect hiking weather, he said. Just a little bit of cold and lots of fresh air. Clouds hung low, making the sky gray. The houses soon grew fewer. Big trees lined the road. The simple wooden sign said, Smithville National Forest, Park Entrance. Karen looked back at her children again. Remember the rules, everyone. Stay where we can see each other. Zoe, please help us watch Jake. I know, Mom. Zoe's voice sounded careful, though her eyes watched Jake with real worry. Jake noticed but looked away, clutching his backpack straps. We're all together, Tom said. Let's have fun and be safe. They parked the car beside a small lot. The ground was covered with brown pine needles. Jake jumped out. The air was cold, making his cheeks red right away. Karen opened the trunk and handed out jackets, hats, and the bag with snacks and water. Gloves on, please, she said. She wore her own scarf, purple with tiny white lines, always wrapped twice. She tucked Jake's gloves into his pocket. Tom checked the bag again. Flashlights, water bottles, trail mix, and the first aid kit. Got everything? Zoe took her flashlight and slipped it into her jeans pocket. Don't run ahead today, okay, Jake? The trails can twist and look the same. I promise, Jake said, but he had already started to look toward the trees, curious. The family walked up the wooden steps to the path's entrance. The air smelled like wet earth and old leaves. Tom led the way, his boots making soft thuds. Karen walked close behind, stopping every few steps to look at the trees. Jake hurried up to Zoe's side, bouncing a little with each step. I read that deer live here, Jake said to Zoe. Maybe we'll see one. Quiet steps then, Zoe whispered, holding her finger to her lips. Animals run when they hear noise. Jake nodded, rubbing his hands together. He scanned the forest, tall, straight pine trunks, thick green ferns, and moss on the ground. Ferns brushed his jacket. The wind moved the branches, making them shake just a little. Tom kept talking, his voice warm. When I was your age, I camped here with Grandpa. We cooked beans in a can and watched the stars. The forest was always bigger at night. Karen took pictures. Smile, kids. She caught Jake making a silly face and Zoe pretending not to notice. For a moment, everyone laughed. They walked for a long time. The forest seemed endless. Sometimes the path curved, letting them see farther. Birds made sharp sounds in the trees. Squirrels ran up trunks and leapt between branches. Jake tried to notice every shape and sound. Stick together, please, Karen called. She reached to lay her hand on Jake's shoulder, then hugged Zoe's arm. Even though she smiled, her eyes looked nervous. Don't worry so much, Tom said quietly. They'll remember the rules. They're kids, Tom. They forget sometimes. Just, let's keep close. Jake felt proud to walk between his parents, but he wished everyone would trust him more. He tapped his foot as he walked and squeezed the straps of his backpack. At a spot where the trail split, Tom stopped. Let's rest here, he said. We can have snacks, then decide which way to go. The path forked, one side wide and clear, the other smaller and covered with leaves. Jake's eyes lit up when he saw the smaller path. Zoe sat down on a flat rock and opened her water. Here, Jake, take a sip. Jake took the bottle. Which way will we go? He asked. Probably the main path, Tom said. It's safer. The smaller trail may not go far. Karen unpacked apples and granola bars. She placed them in the middle for everyone. "Eat something, please." Jake took a bite of his apple, but kept looking at the little side path. Mushrooms grew along a mossy log nearby. The air felt colder there, almost quiet. "Can I go look at those mushrooms?" Jake asked, pointing. Tom shook his head. "Not alone. Snack time is family time." Zoe noticed his disappointment and said, "I'll go with you in a minute, okay?" Karen pulled her jacket closer. "Let's stay together. The forest can be confusing." Jake looked at the little path again. It seemed to bend out of sight behind a bush. He imagined hidden caves, old coins, or something no one had found before. Tom tossed some trail mix into his hand. "Remember, we're here to have fun, but the forest has rules. Stay near us at all times." Jake nodded, chewing slowly. He could not stop wondering about where the smaller path led. The family finished their snack. Karen packed up the wrappers, making sure nothing was left on the ground. Tom checked his phone for the time. "We have lots of daylight left," he said. "Let's pick the main path. We can explore the other trails another day." Jake followed, walking a little slower, his eyes drawn over his shoulder to the smaller trail. The trees seemed to lean closer over it, and something about its silence made him want to go. Karen reached for his hand. "Jake, stay with us, sweetheart." Jake looked up at her. "I just wanted to see one thing. But okay." He sighed and joined his family as they stepped onto the main trail together, their boots pressed into the soft ground, and birds called overhead. More clouds moved in, making it a little darker between the tall trunks. Still, as the family moved deeper into the woods, a sense of excitement and mystery filled the air. No one could guess what the day would hold. Zoe adjusted her glasses and glanced back at Jake, who was staring at the trees where the small path started. She stepped closer and spoke softly. "Don't daydream, Jake. Let's keep moving." "You promised, remember?" Jake blinked and nodded, forcing his eyes forward. The main trail was wide, packed with brown pine needles and a few scattered stones. The forest was so quiet, Jake could hear his own breath and the crunch of every step. Every now and then, a branch snapped and a bird cried out somewhere above. Tom walked ahead, his old boots making slow, careful sounds. He lifted his arm and pointed, "Look over there. You can see almost to the river through that break in the trees." Karen took short steps, watching every side of the trail. "Let's all look for the red markers on the trees. If we see them, we know we're on the right trail." Jake saw a red paint mark on a tall pine. He touched it, feeling proud to have found it first. "Found one, Mom," he said. "Good eye," Karen answered and smiled. Zoe pulled out her flashlight. Even though it was daytime, she checked the batteries and shined it at her shoe. "If it gets dark, we're ready." "Dad, do you remember if this trail circles back to the parking lot?" Tom squinted. "Yes, if we follow the main trail, it will circle back before it gets too late. We entered the forest at about 10 o'clock, so we have many hours before sunset." Jake moved a little ahead, always looking side to side. He stopped at a place where fat mushrooms grew in groups under a log. He kneeled down and pulled out his small brown notebook. "Are you drawing already?" Zoe teased, but she crouched beside him. "Don't get your knees wet." Jake quickly sketched a circle for the mushroom patch and a tall line for the log. "Someday, I want to map every trail here," he said. "That would take a long time," Zoe replied. "The park rangers have real maps anyway." "But they don't have my mushrooms on them," Jake said, grinning. Karen and Tom caught up. "Stay together," Tom said, looking further ahead. "Let's move for a while before another stop." The family walked in silence for a few minutes. They listened to the sound of the wind high in the trees. It sent pine needles drifting gently down. A cold gust made Karen pull her scarf tighter. Jake stopped again as he heard a bird calling from a little higher up. He lifted his eyes and pointed, whispering, "Look, there's a jay." A bright blue bird shook its wings before jumping to the next branch. Zoe snapped a quick photograph with her phone, then shared a quiet smile with Jake. "You see everything," she said. Tom's voice was calm. "That's the fun part of being in the woods. Everything is new if you look for long enough." "I like the quiet," Jake whispered, still watching the bird. Soon the trail grew steeper. Big roots crossed the dirt, making the path twist. Jake almost tripped, but Zoe grabbed his arm. "Careful, don't break an ankle." Her voice was half joking, but her hand held on for a moment longer than needed. Karen paused to look at a small bush with red berries. She turned to the kids. "Don't eat anything from the forest. Some things look sweet but are not safe." Jake put his hands in his pockets. "I know, Mom." They continued down the trail, moving slowly. Jake stared at the ferns as they brushed his jacket. Sunlight slipped through the branches, making pale spots that moved when the wind blew. Tom told a story as they walked. "Many years ago, before Zoe was born, I came here with your grandpa. We got lost once, but we followed the river and found our way back. That's why I always say, keep your eyes open and remember which way you came." "Was Grandpa scared?" Jake asked. Tom nodded. "A little, but he told me to stay calm and look for clues, like broken branches or your own footprints. Nature can surprise you." Karen's phone buzzed. She pulled it out with shaking hands, then put it back. No signal. Just the forest today. Jake liked that idea. He watched bugs crawl along the rocks and listened for the sound of the river in the distance. When they reached a fallen tree across the path, Tom stepped over first and held out his hand for Zoe and Jake. "Careful. Use your arms for balance." Jake managed it, but landed with a small wobble. "I'm okay," he said quickly, a little embarrassed. Zoe squeezed his shoulder. "You did fine, Jake." The family kept moving, turning left at a big boulder that had a painted arrow on it. They stopped every so often to drink water or look at the way the sun filtered through the branches. Finally, they found a small clearing with soft grass and sat down. "Snack time again?" Jake asked hopefully. Karen smiled, opening the bag. "Why not?" "Granola bars for everyone," she said, passing them around. Jake munched his snack and lay on his back in the grass. He stared at the sky through the dark branches overhead. A few clouds moved slowly above. "What do you think is down that other little path?" Jake asked. His voice was soft, but everyone heard him. Tom shrugged. "Maybe just more woods. Or it could lead to the river, or an old trail that's hard to follow." Zoe looked at him. "You want to explore everything, don't you?" Jake nodded. "I want to be the first to see something no one else sees." "We have to be careful," Karen warned quietly. "The smaller paths are not always safe. It's easy to get turned around in the forest." "I know," Jake said, but he kept thinking about the side trail they had passed earlier. He imagined hidden places and secret animals waiting in the shadows. Zoe tossed Jake her flashlight. "If you get scared, use this," she said. "But stay with us." Jake caught it and held it close, his fingers tight around it. After resting, Tom stood up and brushed off his pants. "Let's keep going. We'll reach the next fork soon." The family picked up their bags, made sure nothing was left behind, and walked back to the main trail. The air got colder. The wind moved through the trees, and the clouds above grew thicker. The shadows stretched longer across the path. As they walked, Jake slowed his steps. He watched the trees close in thicker on both sides and listened carefully to every sound. His mind was filled with adventure and curiosity. Up ahead, the path began to split again, and the forest seemed to grow even more silent. Jake felt his feet dragging as the family reached the next fork in the trail. The main path turned to the right, wide and easy to see. But on the left, a smaller trail led away under the low branches, half covered by leaves and tall grass. Jake stopped. His hand pressed the flashlight Zoe had given him. Tom pointed right. "We're almost halfway. Let's follow the main trail and stay close to the river. After, we go back the same way." Zoe adjusted her ponytail and hugged herself against the cold wind. "Don't slow down, Jake. It feels colder now." "I'm not cold," Jake said, watching the little side trail. His curiosity grew stronger. "Can I look at those mushrooms before we go?" he asked, pointing to a rotten log beside the smaller path. Tom opened his mouth to answer, but Karen shook her head. "We need to keep moving. You can draw more later. Stay with us now." Jake nodded but couldn't stop thinking about the mushrooms. They were clustered together, big and white, almost glowing against the moss. He imagined taking just a minute to draw them, then hurrying back. Zoe stepped closer and whispered, "Jake, please, don't wander off. Just stay with me." He gripped his backpack straps and nodded, but his eyes stayed on the little trail. The family started moving down the main path again. Jake was quiet behind them. A few steps later, Tom and Karen got busy checking their map and water bottles. Zoe bent over to tie her shoe. For a moment, no one was looking at Jake. Jake hesitated, biting his lip. He took one careful step toward the mushrooms, then another. He told himself, "I'll just look. I'll go back fast. Nobody will even notice." He moved off the main trail, pushing aside the ferns. The side path felt softer under his shoes. The air was quiet. Even the birds sounded far away. Jake knelt beside the mushrooms, pulling out his small notebook and pencil. He drew their round tops and the way the moss curled around the log. Suddenly, he sneezed. The sound echoed, strange and alone. He looked back and couldn't see any sign of his family. He listened. The woods were silent, except for leaves moving in the wind. Jake stood up and started back toward the big trail. After a few steps, he stopped. Everything looked different. Trees blocked his view. The side trail twisted left, then faded under the ferns. Jake looked for footprints, but the ground was covered in needles and soft moss. He called quietly, "Mom? Zoe?" He waited. No answer. A cold panic touched his skin. He walked a little faster, sure he would find the main trail soon. But every tree looked the same, tall and gray. Jake could not hear the river anymore. He pressed a hand to his chest, trying to breathe slowly. "I just want to go back," he whispered. "I should have told them." He turned in a small circle, searching for something familiar. A broken branch, a red mark, even the sound of voices. But the only noise was the wind moving higher up. Jake remembered his dad's words, "If you are lost, stay in one place." But he didn't feel brave enough to stop yet. He tried another direction, pushing between close trees and tripping over a hidden root. He fell, scraping his hand. His eyes felt hot, but he refused to cry. He stood again, rubbing his hand, and started calling, louder this time. "Mom! Dad! Zoe!" The sound bounced off the trees, but nothing answered. He started to tap his foot, a nervous habit. He gripped his flashlight so hard his hand hurt. "Okay," he told himself, voice shaking. "I went left, so if I go right, maybe I'll find the trail." He moved in careful steps, looking behind himself every few seconds. But every time he thought he saw a familiar log or a group of mushrooms, it looked different up close. His heart pounded harder. The sky grew darker above the trees. More clouds moved across the sun. Jake found a rock to sit on, pressing his knees against his chest. He listened for any noise that could mean people. Once he thought he heard his name, but then the sound disappeared. Jake let out a shaky breath. "I should have stayed," he said softly. He remembered his dad's stories of getting lost, of looking for broken branches and footprints. He tried to find clues. Branches snapped, a shoe print, something he left behind. But the ground was too soft, and every bush looked the same. He stood up. His ankle hurt, maybe from his fall. He limped forward, thinking maybe he was close to the main trail. As he moved, Jake spotted a patch of ferns he hadn't seen before. The ground was wet and cold. He slipped and almost fell again. It frightened him. Everything was getting darker and colder. Jake's mind started racing. "It's not that late," he told himself. "They will find me. I just need to be quiet and wait." He remembered what his dad said about being lost. If you stay really quiet, maybe they'll hear you. So Jake sat down, hugging himself under a big pine tree. Its roots made a small space where he could rest. He tried to listen through the thick silence. The wind picked up. Small drops of rain began to fall on his bright yellow jacket. He shivered, pulling his knees tighter to his chest. He tried calling again, but his voice sounded small and far away now. "Zoe? Dad? Mom?" All he could hear was the soft rain and the wind in the branches. Jake fought the urge to cry. He closed his eyes and whispered, "Please, someone find me." He pictured his family looking for him. It made his heart ache. He opened his eyes and looked at his flashlight in his hand. "Don't be scared," he told himself. "I just need to wait." The rain grew heavier. Jake tried to keep his notebook dry, pressing it under his jacket. He heard a branch snap nearby and froze. "Maybe it's them," he whispered. But nothing came into view. He listened hard for any voices, but the only sound was the forest. Jake sat there, shivering, with the sky getting darker above him, not knowing where his family was or if anyone could hear him at all. Back on the main trail, Karen looked around as she finished packing the snack wrappers. She stood up and checked for Zoe and Tom. Her heart gave a small jump when she only saw Zoe. "Where's Jake?" Karen asked, her voice tight. Zoe turned quickly, her eyes wide. "He was just here. I thought he was walking behind me." Tom was a few steps ahead, looking back at them. "Isn't he right there with you?" Karen shook her head, panic growing in her eyes. "Jake? Jake!" Her voice echoed through the trees. Zoe ran a few steps back the way they came. "Jake, where are you? Answer me!" She looked under the low branches and behind a tree, her hands shaking. Tom dropped his backpack and walked in fast circles, eyes searching the ground. "He can't be far. Jake, buddy, shout so we can hear you." Karen's hands trembled as she called louder, her voice sharp. "Jake, it's Mom. Please answer me." She grabbed her phone, but the screen showed no signal. Her hands shook so much that her phone slipped to the ground. She picked it up again with fingers that could barely hold it steady. Zoe's voice started to crack. "He wouldn't just walk off, would he?" Tom shook his head, pressing his lips together. "No, he knows better. But maybe he wanted to see those mushrooms. Stay here and keep calling. I'll check." He rushed off toward the smaller trail where Jake had looked earlier, calling his son's name every few steps. The quiet in the woods made his shouts sound strange and lonely. Karen took Zoe's hand, her voice quivering. "Keep calling. He'll hear us." Zoe wiped her eyes and called again. "Jake, it's Zoe. If you hear me, yell, please." The sky above was growing grayer, and the trees seemed taller. A cold wind shook the branches. Karen hugged herself, shivering, ears straining for any reply from Jake. Tom ran back, his breath heavy. "Nothing. I'll try the main path, you try the small one. Keep shouting. If you see anything, stop and wait for me." "I'm scared, Tom," Karen whispered. Tom put his hand on her shoulder. "I know. We'll find him. We don't stop searching, ever." The family split up, both parents calling and listening, moving slowly in different directions. Zoe stayed in the middle, turning back and forth, her voice fading as she called. "It's my fault," she whispered to herself, tears blurring her glasses. After what felt like a very long time, but was really just a few minutes, Karen came running back to Zoe. "He's not on this trail. Tom hasn't found him either." Zoe's voice was thin. "Maybe he's hiding. Maybe he's trying to surprise us." Karen shook her head, face pale. "No, he would answer by now." She gripped Zoe's hand tightly. "We need help." Karen tried her phone again, still no signal. Tom hurried toward them, worry stamped on his face. "We need to get to a place with service," Tom said. "I'll run to the parking lot, call the police, stay right here, call for him until I get back." Tom ran, leaves and twigs snapping under his boots. Karen stood frozen, eyes on Zoe. "Keep calling, sweetheart." Zoe's voice was small but steady. "Jake, we aren't mad. Just answer us." The wind threw the words back. Minutes trickled by. Karen checked her watch. "It's past 3 o'clock. It's getting colder." Zoe hugged herself and looked at the ground. "If I'd watched him, he wouldn't be lost." Karen hugged Zoe quickly. "Don't blame yourself. We all thought he was right here." Tom returned, breathless, waving his phone. "I called 911. They're sending help. They said to stay put, so search teams can find us faster." Minutes later, a sheriff's car pulled into the parking lot and stopped at the edge of the woods. Deputy Lisa Hart stepped out with her flashlight and notebook. She was tall, calm, and moved quickly to the family. "Who's missing?" Lisa asked, her voice friendly but direct. Karen gave a shaky answer. "Our son, Jake. He's 11. Yellow jacket. We lost him near the fork in the trail." Deputy Hart nodded and pulled out her radio. "We'll start searching right now. Stay together so I can contact you." She turned to Zoe and Tom. "Can you tell me exactly what you last saw and where?" Tom pointed to the path. "He was with us at the break. Then we all called for him, checked both paths, but he's gone." Deputy Hart turned to her radio again. "This is Hart. We have a lost child, 11 years old, yellow jacket. Last seen near the Fork-Off Pine Trail, Smithville National Forest. Start volunteer search teams at the base. Soon people from town arrived, some holding flashlights and wearing coats. Mrs. Bennett brought a box with hot drinks. Mr. Thomas wore hiking boots and waved to the sheriff. Everyone looked worried. Karen watched as more people arrived, her hands holding Zoe close. "They're coming to help. He's not alone," she whispered, tears at the corners of her eyes. Lisa lined up the volunteers. "We search in groups. No one goes alone. Call out Jake's name and check all around, even under logs and big roots. If you find anything, yell and wait." Teams spread out, voices calling, "Jake, Jake, can you hear us?" Tom wanted to run, but Lisa stopped him. "Stay near your family. Let's work together. Fear spreads fast, but we stay calm and careful." A cold rain began to fall. Lights from flashlights cut through the thickening gray. The forest was quiet, except for shouts of hope and fear mixed together. Karen listened, hugging Zoe tighter. "He's out there, Zoe. They'll find him. They have to." Deputy Hart moved from group to group, making sure no area was missed. She pressed the small stone in her pocket for luck. Zoe whispered, "I'm sorry, Jake. I promise I'll never let you go again." The searchers moved deeper into the woods, voices growing softer under the dark sky. The only sounds left were the wind, the rain, and the hope that someone would hear their calls. Jake pressed himself closer to the big pine roots, pulling his yellow jacket tight. The rain sounded louder now, soft and cold as it touched his hair and face. He hugged his knees to his chest and tried to stop shaking. "If I am very quiet, maybe I will hear Mom or Dad," he whispered. He held Zoe's flashlight in both hands, but he did not turn it on yet. He wanted to save the batteries, in case it got even darker. Little drops ran from his hair down his neck, making him flinch. He looked at the ground, searching for his notebook. It was damp, but safe under his jacket. He placed it against his chest and listened again. All he could hear was wind, and the drip, drip, drip of rain on branches. A squirrel scurried close, its tail flicked up, then it disappeared fast into the ferns. Jake's heart beat faster. He remembered his dad saying, "If you are lost, try to stay in one place. People can find you faster that way." Still, every sound in the forest made him worry. He jumped when a branch snapped. Jake spoke to the darkness. "I am right here. Please find me." He moved his leg. His ankle hurt a lot when he tried to stretch it out. He thought about getting up to look for a softer place to sit, but the pain made him stay put. He felt tears come. He bit his lip and wiped his face with his jacket sleeve. He did not want to cry, but the pain and fear inside him grew stronger. His stomach rumbled. He pulled out a piece of granola bar from his bag. It was a little smashed, but he ate it slowly, chewing each bite. He drank some water, careful not to spill. Jake stared into the gray light. He wondered if it was almost night. He had no way to tell the time, but it felt late. He wished Zoe was there. He talked to her out loud even though she could not hear. "Zoe, you said I could use your flashlight if I got scared. I am scared now," he whispered. "I just wanted to be cool and brave for you." A burst of wind shook the branches above, making more rain fall on his head. He flinched again and looked at the dark forest floor. Shadows moved everywhere, shapes far and near. He tried to think of good things: hot chocolate at home, his bed, Mom reading stories at night. Suddenly, Jake thought he heard something. Was it a call? He held his breath. "Mom?" he shouted. His voice was high and shaky. "Dad?" The rain swallowed the words. Maybe it was just the wind, or maybe people really were searching for him. He listened hard, but the sound was gone. Jake shivered, cold and tired. His ankle throbbed. He tried to change position, but every movement sent a sharp pain up his leg. He started to cry, quiet sobs he could not stop. "I wish I had waited," he whispered. "I should have listened." After crying, Jake wiped his nose and breathed deeper. He remembered more things Dad had taught him. "Try to keep warm, use your jacket, sit under roots, wait for help," he told himself, repeating the words. "Don't use your flashlight unless you need it." He looked at the dark forest, then at the flashlight. He wanted to see the trees, but he was scared to find an animal or something he could not explain. Night came slowly, color leaving the sky until everything looked gray and black. He heard something skitter again through the leaves. He sat still, not moving or speaking, only listening. His mind drifted back to school. He remembered his class, his friends, the day he showed them the map he drew of his street. He wanted to be the hero, someone who found the best places. Now he just wished someone would find him. He wrapped his arms tighter and closed his eyes. His lips moved in a soft, trembling whisper. "Please, Scout, find me. Please." Suddenly, Jake heard a strange sound. It was not the wind or the birds. It was more like a cry far away. He leaned forward, holding his breath. "Mom?" he called as loud as he could. No answer. He blinked and realized that his toes were numb from the cold. He moved his feet slowly, trying to keep feeling in them. Hours seemed to go by. Jake could not sleep. Night noises filled the air, rustling leaves, snapping twigs, quick steps of small animals. He tried to stay awake so he could listen for voices. Time passed slowly. He counted his breaths, the raindrops, the cold shivers. Once he almost fell asleep, but then he woke up in a panic, sure he had heard someone call again. He remembered springtime with his family in Smithville, laughing, walking together, playing in the yard. He missed their voices even more now. His thoughts circled back to the day. "Maybe I should have said I was going," he whispered, voice cracking, "but I just wanted to see what was down that path." The wind died for a moment. Jake lifted the flashlight, turned it on, and shone it at the trees. For a second, the beam made the bark and wet leaves look bright, but nothing else moved. He quickly turned it off to save the batteries. Jake listened harder. Once it sounded like a soft footstep nearby, but nothing else came. He thought of his mom's words, "Family is everything. We can get through this." He repeated them to himself. Soon he felt his eyes getting heavy. He tried to keep them open, but sleep pulled at him. He curled tighter, his yellow jacket pulled up to his ears, the sound of rain and his own breathing filling the small space under the roots. At last, Jake let himself close his eyes. He promised, "I will wake up if someone calls me." With his notebook pressed against his chest and the flashlight ready in his hand, he drifted into an uneasy sleep, waiting for the sound of help in the dark woods. The forest grew quiet as night pressed down. Jake slept fitfully under the roots, curled tight, the yellow jacket shining dully each time a searcher's flashlight swept far off in the woods. His breath made little clouds in the cold air with every exhale. Not far from the main trail, at the search base near the parking lot, Deputy Lisa Hart stood with her radio, eyes fixed on the dark forest. She wiped rain from her face and looked over at Tom, Karen, and Zoe, who were sitting together on camp chairs, huddled in blankets. Tom paced back and forth, fists tight. "It's almost midnight," he said quietly to no one. "Where is my son? We've waited long enough." Karen squeezed Zoe's hand. "He's brave, Tom. He's just trying to stay warm somewhere, but we need to find him before morning." Lisa listened to the last group's update on her radio. "No sign on the south trail. Check again closer to the stream," she spoke simply into the mic. Then she turned and gave a small, comforting smile to the family. A truck pulled up through the wet gravel, headlights bouncing on the trees. A man with messy brown hair and a golden retriever jumped out quickly. Lisa called, "Mike, over here." Mike Sanchez nodded, speaking first to the dog beside him. "Scout, time to work. Let's help the boy." Zoe's tired voice broke the silence. "Will your dog really find him? The woods are so big." Mike gave a gentle answer. "Scout's found a lot of missing kids. He's the best nose in Oregon." Scout sat, tail wagging, already nosing the muddy ground. Lisa pointed at Karen. "Do you have something of Jake's? Something with his scent?" Karen pulled a glove from her jacket. "He dropped this before we left the car. Will it help?" Mike reached down. "Perfect, thank you." He let Scout smell the glove. Scout sniffed it, tail wagging even more. Mike ruffled the golden fur and whispered, "Good boy, let's find Jake." Lisa gathered the nearby rescue team. "Mike and Scout will take the next sector by the North Creek. Everyone keep lights low and listen for barking." Scout sniffed the ground, nose pressed hard into the mud, turning in a circle before heading briskly into the woods. Mike followed, headlamp beam cutting through dark leaves. Lisa, holding her flashlight low, walked behind them with 2 other volunteers. Mike kept his voice low and steady. "Scout, what do you find? Is he close?" Scout barked once, then picked up speed, darting through ferns. Behind them, Lisa updated the base on her walkie-talkie. Search dog searching side trails by North Creek. As Scout led the way, Mike called back, "Stay close. Scout usually follows the strongest scent." Lisa's boots slipped on the wet leaves. "Be careful, everyone. It's muddy here and the roots are thick." Scout sniffed a patch of moss, then followed a winding track between trees. Then he stopped and barked, tail up, eyes alert. Mike hurried to his side, shining his light across the wet ground. Mike's voice was hopeful. "He found something here, look." He pointed where a small footprint pressed into soft dirt. Lisa spoke quickly. "That's a child's shoe print. We're on the right path." She radioed the base. "Possible sign, moving farther east." Scout kept pulling to the north, nose never leaving the ground. He barked twice, then darted ahead, slipping under some low-hanging branches. Jake, still curled in sleep, did not hear them coming. But Scout smelled him before he was seen. The golden retriever barked loud and clear, pushing forward until his wet nose nudged Jake's leg. Jake jumped up, eyes huge in the flashlight's glare. His voice was weak with fear and relief. "Scout?" Mike crouched beside him, gentle smile showing in the faint light. "Hey there, buddy, you're safe now. We've got you." Jake's whole body shook with tears and surprise. "I heard you. I tried to wait here. My ankle hurts." His voice sounded small, but there was hope in it now. Lisa came up and knelt beside him. "Jake, you did the smart thing. You stayed put and waited. Your family is waiting for you." Scout wagged his tail, nuzzling Jake, who hugged the dog tight, burying his face in the soft gold fur. Mike spoke slowly, checking Jake's ankle. "Looks swollen, but we'll take care of you. Do you feel cold anywhere else?" Jake nodded. "Mostly my feet, and I'm hungry." Lisa smiled gently as she wrapped a rescue blanket around Jake. "We're going to get you warm and fed. Let me call your parents." She pressed her radio. "We found Jake. Repeat, we found him north of the creek. He's safe. Bring the medics up Pine Trail." Jake leaned hard against Scout, who licked his cheek. Mike handed Jake a dry piece of granola bar from his pocket. "Eat this. You did great, kid." Jake ate it slowly, mouth full but happier than before. "Thank you, Scout. Thank you, Mike." Scout pressed close to Jake's side, tail swishing back and forth. Mike turned to Lisa. "He trusts Scout. We'll let him lean on the dog so he can walk back." Lisa nodded. "We'll walk as slow as you need. Everyone, keep lights low and watch your step." Jake limped, one hand on Scout's back, wrapped tight in the blanket. Lisa stayed nearby, talking softly. "You were very brave, Jake. A lot of people worked together to find you." Jake whispered. "Did my family look too?" Lisa smiled. "Your mom, dad, and Zoe never stopped. They're waiting for you now." As they walked, Jake looked at Scout again. "Did you really smell me here?" Mike nodded. "Scout can smell things most people cannot. He's a hero." Jake's eyes filled with relief. "I just wanted Zoe to think I was cool, but I got lost." Lisa said gently, "Everyone makes mistakes. It matters most that you stayed safe." Branches lifted as they stepped back toward the trail, flashlight beams making a soft path through the dark. Above, the rain slowed to a drizzle. Far away, distant voices called Jake's name. Lisa called the base. "We're coming out of the woods now. Jake is safe." Jake squeezed Scout's ear, his heart beating with hope as the dark forest slowly faded behind him. Voices rose through the trees as Jake, Scout, Mike, and Deputy Lisa Hart moved slowly along the path. Jake leaned heavily on Scout while the emergency blanket hugged his shoulders. Bright lights danced closer, and shapes moved ahead. Suddenly, Karen's voice broke through the chilly air. "Jake! Jake!" Her voice was sharp, almost breaking. Jake tried to answer, his throat felt dry. "Mom!" he called. "I'm here!" Tom rushed forward first, stumbling as he ran up the muddy path. He grabbed Jake in a tight hug, lifting him off his feet even as Scout wagged and circled excitedly. Jake pressed his face into his dad's shoulder. "Dad, I'm sorry. I tried to wait. My ankle hurts." Tom's eyes shone with tears. "You're safe, that's what matters. I love you, buddy. I love you so much." Karen and Zoe hurried next, arms open wide. Karen wrapped Jake in both arms, hands shaking as she touched his face, as if she was not sure he was really there. "Oh, Jake. Oh, thank you. You scared me so much. Are you hurt? Are you cold?" Karen's words tumbled out fast. "I'm okay, Mom. Just cold and my ankle hurts," Jake whispered, hugging her back. Zoe stepped close, tears on her cheeks behind fogged glasses. She squeezed Jake's arm. "Don't ever do that again. I was so scared," she whispered. Jake tried to smile. "I promise. I missed you too, Zoe." Zoe shook her head and wiped her face, half laughing, half crying. "Don't worry about being cool. I just want you safe." Deputy Hart stood by, letting the family have their moment. Then she gently touched Tom's arm. "Let's get him to the truck. The medics want to check him out and warm him up." Mike scratched Scout's ear. "Good job, Scout. You did it." Scout wagged and nudged Jake's knee, licking his hand. Jake bent and threw both arms around Scout's neck. "Thank you, Scout. You found me." The golden retriever's tail wagged even faster, eyes soft with pride. Volunteers from town clapped and cheered as the group reached the parking lot. Mrs. Bennett handed Karen a cup of hot cocoa. "Here, help him drink this." Karen held the cup to Jake's lips. He took a careful sip, feeling the warmth spread through his cold body. Paramedics wrapped Jake in another blanket and checked his ankle with gentle hands. One of them spoke softly. "We need to take him to the hospital in Salem. His ankle is hurt and he's very cold. He should get checked for anything else." Tom nodded fast, not letting go of Jake's hand. "Take care of him. I'll ride up front." Karen gently brushed Jake's hair from his eyes. "We'll be right there with you, sweetheart." Zoe held Jake's backpack tight and carried it to the ambulance. She looked at Mike and Scout. "Thank you. You saved him." Mike blushed and rubbed the back of his neck. "Scout did all the work." Deputy Hart smiled. "Teamwork saved the day. You all did something special, every searcher, every helper." As rescuers packed up gear, Mrs. Bennett hugged Karen. "Your boy is strong. We all hoped for this." Tom thanked everyone he saw. "Thank you, each person. Thank you for searching. We couldn't have done this alone." The family drove with the ambulance team all the way to the Salem hospital. Lights passed in the windows. Jake's eyes felt heavy, but he tried to stay awake. Karen held one hand and Zoe squeezed the other. At the hospital, doctors checked Jake's ankle and cleaned the cuts on his hand. They moved quickly but spoke kindly. A nurse brought a warm blanket and tucked it close. "You're safe now, Jake. Try to rest." The doctor spoke to Karen and Tom after checking X-rays. "Jake's ankle is badly sprained, and there's some damage to the muscle. We may need to do a small surgery to help it heal right. He will stay here for a few days." Karen squeezed Tom's hand, worry clear on her face, but Tom nodded. "Just do what you have to. He's the most important thing." Jake opened his eyes as the doctor left. "Will I be able to walk again?" Zoe sat on the edge of the bed. "Of course you will, little brother. You're tougher than anyone I know." Jake tried to laugh, the sound breaking. "I was really scared. I didn't want to be alone." Karen brushed his cheek. "You're not alone, honey. We'll be here every minute." News spread fast through Smithville. People sent food, cards, and stuffed animals for Jake. The sheriff's office called to say Scout and Mike were heroes. Mrs. Bennett visited the hospital the next day with cookies for Zoe and Karen. She smiled at Jake and squeezed his hand. Everyone smiled when Scout and Mike visited. Jake petted Scout, who jumped onto the side of the bed. "You really are the best dog," Jake whispered. Mike shook Jake's hand. "We're proud of you, Jake. You did everything right." Deputy Hart called Tom to say she was giving Scout a medal at the town center next week, and the family would be guests of honor. Jake looked at his family, his friends, and the helpers all around. Even with pain in his ankle and fear still in his chest, he felt hope growing again. Wrapped in blankets, with Zoe holding his hand, and the sounds of people talking softly in the hallway, Jake let his eyes close, safe at last. Morning sunlight peeked through the hospital room window, as Jake woke up. His leg was raised in a thick bandage. The room was quiet except for the steady beep of a machine and Zoe whispering to their mom near the door. Jake rubbed his eyes. "Is it morning?" he asked, voice scratchy. Karen turned quickly. "Yes, it's morning, sweetie. Did you sleep at all?" "Kind of," Jake said softly. "I had a dream I was back in the forest. It felt real." Zoe came close and sat by his bed. "You're in the hospital, Jake. You're safe now." Jake watched the sunlight move across the blanket. "Does my ankle still need surgery?" Karen nodded gently. "The doctor says they will fix it today. The nurses will take care of you, and we will be here the whole time." Jake swallowed hard, scared. "Will it hurt?" Zoe took his hand. "Only for a short time, I think. They said you will sleep through it and wake up after. You're really brave, Jake." Karen brushed Jake's hair away from his forehead. "The doctor will come soon. Try to eat breakfast, honey." A nurse brought food, smiling. "Eggs, toast, and juice. Hospital food is not great, but it gives you energy." Jake pushed the food around his plate and ate a little. "Can I see Dad?" Karen nodded. "He is getting coffee with the doctor. He wanted to ask everything about your ankle." After a moment, Tom walked in, looking tired but smiling. He sat by Jake. "They say it will go just fine. You'll be walking again in a few weeks." Jake tried to smile back. "Promise?" Tom nodded. "I promise. I'll help you with anything you need. Maybe we can camp in the backyard when you're better." Jake let out a little laugh, but soon his face grew serious. "Are you mad at me?" Tom shook his head. "No, Jake. I was scared, but I'm just glad you're safe. I shouldn't have let you out of my sight." Karen squeezed Tom's arm. "No one is blaming anyone. It was an accident." Zoe folded her arms, face tight. "I should have watched him too. I stopped paying attention. If I hadn't," Karen interrupted gently. "Zoe, it's not your fault." Zoe didn't answer. She looked out the window, biting her lip. Her hands gripped the straps of Jake's backpack, now sitting in the chair. After breakfast, the doctor came in. "Good morning, Jake. Are you ready for surgery? You will get medicine to help you sleep, and your parents will be right here." Jake nodded, face pale. A nurse wheeled his bed down the hall. He reached for Karen's hand. "Will you wait for me?" Karen stroked his hair. "We're not leaving, sweetheart. We'll be right here when you wake up." Jake closed his eyes as everything faded. Hours later, Jake woke up in the same hospital room, his parents and Zoe standing close. Karen rushed over, voice soft with relief. "You did great, Jake. It's all finished." Jake ached a little but could move his toes. He smiled weakly. "Did Scout come by?" Tom chuckled. "Scout's not allowed in the hospital rooms, but Mike and Deputy Hart sent cards. Scout drew a paw print for you." Zoe taped the cards to the wall where Jake could see. "Everyone from school sent notes too. Ms. Lopez is asking if you want visitors when you feel better." Jake read a few messages. Some said, "Get well soon." Others said, "You're a hero." Some just said, "We miss you." Zoe glanced at Jake, then looked away quickly. "When you're home, I want to start a safety club at school, so this doesn't happen to any other kid." Jake nodded, feeling a little better. "Can I help?" Zoe finally smiled and touched his hand. "Yeah, I'd like that." As the days passed, visitors came. Mrs. Bennett brought books and cookies. Mike Sanchez came with Scout, who waited outside by the window. Jake pressed his hand to the glass, and Scout wagged his tail, barking twice. Jake had trouble sleeping most nights. He woke up sweating from dreams about the dark woods. In the mornings, his ankle throbbed and sometimes his head hurt too. One night, when the hospital was quiet, Jake whispered, "Mom, are you awake?" Karen squeezed his hand. "Yes, I am. Can't sleep either?" "I keep thinking I'm lost again," Jake said, voice shaky. "It's hard to forget." Karen hugged him. "It's normal, honey. It was scary, but you're safe now. You can tell me if you feel afraid." Jake nodded and shut his eyes. "Don't let me go, okay?" "I won't," Karen promised, stroking his head until he finally slept. After a week, Jake started to heal. He went for short walks in the hallway with Tom, using crutches. Other kids waved and nurses called out, "Getting better, Jake?" Tom knelt by Jake's side in the hallway. "I know things feel strange now, but soon you'll be home. We're proud of you." Jake squeezed Tom's hand, voice quiet. I don't feel brave. I just wanted you and Zoe to be proud. Tom smiled. You don't have to do big things for us to love you. You're enough, just as you are. Zoe appeared with a notebook. Here, we can plan the safety hike together. Jake took it, smiling. Maybe I'll draw a map, but only if you come with me. Zoe nodded. Deal. As the days passed, Jake and Zoe worked together quietly in the hospital room, side by side again. They talked, planned, learned how to move forward. Family and friends visited every afternoon, bringing hope and small gifts. One morning, after a long week, the doctor smiled at Jake. You're strong enough to go home. Let's get you ready. Jake's heart felt lighter. He looked at his family and smiled for the first time in many days. With Zoe wheeling him to the car and Karen holding his bag, the family stepped out into the bright Oregon day, together again. Jake rode home in the car, watching the small houses and tall trees pass by the windows. Sunlight flickered over the dashboard. Zoe sat beside him, hugging her new Safety Club notebook. Karen and Tom talked in the front seats, but sometimes they just held hands and stayed quiet. Smithville looked almost the same as always, but Jake felt different. When they reached their house, neighbors waved and called out, "Welcome home, Jake!" Balloons and small signs waited on the porch. Jake gave a tired smile as Tom helped him inside. The living room felt warm and full of light. Jake took off his shoes and sat on the couch, careful with his ankle. Zoe placed the safety notebook next to him and sat close. Karen knelt in front of Jake, touching his arm. "Are you happy to be home?" Jake nodded, but he frowned a little. "I am happy, Mom, but I keep thinking about the forest. I dream about it a lot." Tom came over, sitting on Jake's other side. "Dreams take time to change, son. It's all right to feel that way. Does anything worry you now?" Jake looked at his hands. "When I was lost, sometimes I thought I heard people walking or talking, but when I called back, nobody answered." Zoe placed her hand on his. "You were scared. Maybe your mind played tricks." Jake shook his head. "Sometimes it was louder than the wind. One time I even heard someone call my name in a voice I didn't know." Tom grew quiet. "The woods can be strange," he said, voice gentle. "You hear things, but you're safe now." That afternoon, visitors stopped by with food, cards, and small gifts. Mr. Hunt, the old park ranger, brought a photo book about the forest. He sat with Tom and Karen at the kitchen table. His beard was gray and his eyes sharp. Hunt leaned in, his voice low. "Strange things happen in those woods. When I talked to the sheriff, they told me about small footprints found near the North Trail, places even the search dog didn't go." Karen looked worried. "What do you mean?" Hunt shrugged. "Nobody new is missing, but sometimes these things happen after a big storm. Animals walk in funny patterns, but sometimes the prints look like children's shoes." He turned to Jake. "Did you see anything unusual out there, Jake?" Jake remembered the patches of moss, a shadow moving, a soft sound far away. He shook his head but did not speak for a long time. Tom watched Jake closely. "You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to." Jake bit his lip. "I thought I saw something move behind the trees. Not an animal, but maybe I just wanted someone to find me." Zoe gave his hand a squeeze. "You're back now. That's what matters." After Hunt left, Karen and Tom sat quietly in the kitchen. Jake and Zoe went to their room with the safety notebook. Zoe opened a new page. "Let's write a list of things every kid should do if they get lost." Jake thought for a moment, then said, "Stay in one place, call for help, keep warm, don't eat wild berries." Zoe wrote each thing down in neat letters. "We can teach the safety club next week at school." Jake leaned against his pillow. "Do you think anyone at school will think I'm strange? Some kids called me brave in their notes, but a few never said anything." Zoe looked thoughtful. "Most kids are just happy you're okay. Some are scared because it could happen to anyone." That night, after Tom said goodnight, Jake lay awake, the dark room filled with small sounds. A car passed outside. An owl hooted near the window. He closed his eyes and listened. Memories of the forest came back, the rain, cold roots, and also the feeling of being watched. In the morning, Karen handed Jake a letter. It's from Deputy Hart. She says thank you for being strong, and she wants you to help with the new safety program in Smithville. Jake smiled shyly, reading the note. She says I can speak to kids about what happened. When school started again, Jake walked slowly with Zoe and Karen. Some kids rushed up to greet him. Others pointed at his bandaged leg and whispered. At lunch, Jake sat with Zoe and a few friends. Emma, a girl from class, asked him, "Were you scared out there?" Jake nodded. "Yes, I was very scared. But I tried to remember what my dad said. I waited and did not run." Another boy, Marcus, leaned in. "Did you really hear voices? My mom said people get lost in those woods all the time." Jake looked down. "Maybe I heard things. Maybe I didn't. I'm not sure what was real." Emma gave him a small smile. "I'm glad you're back." The next day in Smithville, news reporters visited Hunt at the ranger station. They wrote a story about the footprints and the Smithville mystery. Some kids at school talked about it, telling stories about other children lost in the woods or secrets deep in the trees. At home, Jake and Zoe finished their safety club plans. Zoe spoke quietly. "Even Deputy Hart thinks there are mysteries in the woods. She said so when we visited her at the station." Jake opened his notebook and drew a small pine tree, a winding trail, and in the shadows, simple footprints. "I don't think I'll ever forget what happened," he said, looking up. "Sometimes I remember a sound behind the trees, but when I turned, nobody was there." Zoe hugged him from the side. "It's okay if you can't explain everything." Late that evening, Jake stood at the window. The sun set behind the tall pines. He listened as the wind moved through the branches. He thought about Scout, about his family, and about the forest, still holding secrets he did not understand. He rested his head on the glass, watching the sky turn dark. Down the hall, he could hear his parents talking softly, and Zoe writing in their notebook. Jake knew some questions might never get answers, but with his family nearby, he felt a little braver every day. Jake stared out the window as a new day began. Sunlight touched the pine trees behind his home. He heard the sound of Zoe's pencil as she worked on the safety club plans at the kitchen table. Karen was frying eggs, and Tom poured orange juice into glasses. Jake pulled on his shoes carefully and walked to join them, using just one crutch. Zoe looked up from her notebook, her brown eyes shining behind her glasses. "Are you ready for the safety hike at school today?" she asked. Jake nodded. "Yes. I want to help lead it. I want kids to feel safe in the forest." Karen smiled as she set plates on the table. "I'm proud of you both. You turned something hard into something good." Tom sat at the table, pulling his chair closer to Jake. "After breakfast, I'll drive you and Zoe to school. We'll help set up the tables for Deputy Hart and Mike." Jake took a deep breath as he ate. His ankles still hurt sometimes, but his heart felt stronger. After breakfast, the family left the house together. Outside, the air was cool and fresh. Birds sang somewhere above the trees. At the school, bright posters hung everywhere. "Keep kids safe hike, join us in the gym," read one sign. Children and parents gathered by the doors, some carrying flashlights, others holding maps. Deputy Hart stood at the entrance, smiling and shaking hands. Mike wore a badge with Scout's photo on it, and Scout himself trotted at Mike's side, wagging his tail as children reached out to pet him. Jake grinned as Scout ran to greet him. "Hi, Scout. You remember me?" Scout barked and licked Jake's palm. Mike smiled, rubbing Scout's head. "He'll always remember you, Jake." Zoe passed out notebooks and pencils to the kids. She called, "Everyone, write your name on your notebook. We'll teach you how to plan a safe hike." Deputy Hart spoke in a clear, calm voice. "Today we are learning how to stay safe. If you get lost, stay in one place, keep calm, and use your whistle or flashlight. Help your friends. Remember, you are not alone in the woods." Jake walked in front of the group, showing how to read the bright red markers like the ones he saw in the real forest. "Look for these signs on the trees," he told everyone. "They help you know where you are." One little boy raised his hand. "What if someone hears a strange noise in the woods?" Jake looked at Zoe, then answered, "Sometimes you hear animals or the wind. Sometimes you get scared. It's okay to call out for help. Stay calm and wait where you are. People will come find you." Karen and Tom watched from the doorway, smiling at their kids. After the hike around the gym, each student sat in a circle with Zoe and Jake. Zoe asked, "How did you feel when you didn't know where you were?" A girl whispered, "I was scared, but I remembered to stay with my buddy." Jake nodded. "That's good. I got scared too, but I waited for help." After class, Ms. Lopez called the family over. "You should all be proud. I've never seen the kids work together so well. Jake, you helped everyone learn." Jake felt shy but happy. He turned to Zoe, whispering, "Thank you for helping me with the club." Zoe squeezed his arm. "Don't thank me. You gave me the idea." Later that week, the whole family attended the town ceremony. In the center of Smithville, neighbors gathered around tables covered with cookies and juice. Deputy Hart called Jake and Scout to stand next to her on the small stage. Deputy Hart spoke to the crowd. "It takes bravery to ask for help and stay strong. Jake did this. Scout helped save him. Today we honor their teamwork and the way our town worked together." She pinned a shiny badge on Scout's collar and handed Jake a special certificate. The crowd clapped and cheered. Scout barked and wagged his tail, making everyone laugh. Mayor Williams shook Tom's and Karen's hands. "Your family showed everyone what hope and teamwork mean." Tom smiled. "We could not have done any of it by ourselves." Ms. Bennett handed out cookies as kids gathered to ask Jake questions. "Did you see any wild animals? Were you scared at night? Was Scout fast when he found you?" Jake answered each question. "I was scared. I heard little animals, but Scout made me feel safe. I waited and tried to stay brave." As the sun set, the Miller family walked home together. Tom slung his arm over Jake's shoulders. Karen linked arms with Zoe. Jake carried the certificate and badge in his backpack, his heart lighter than any time since he was lost. He looked at the trees around him. They did not seem so frightening now. That night, Jake and Zoe sat on the porch, the sky above full of stars. Zoe finished writing in her safety notebook. "There are still mysteries in the woods," she whispered. "Do you think you'll ever understand what you heard out there?" Jake watched the stars. "Maybe not. But I know next time, I'll always stick with my family." Karen called from inside. "Ready to come inside, kids?" Zoe smiled and stood, closing the notebook. "Coming, Mom." Jake got up, feeling safe with her by his side. Inside the house, laughter and soft voices filled the rooms. Jake hugged each family member before bed. As he pulled the covers over himself, tired but happy, he whispered, "Thank you," to no one in particular. The night was calm and quiet, the sounds of his home keeping him steady as he drifted into sleep, hope strong in his heart.